Michael, you asked our audience which team will be the NFL's highest scoring unit this coming season for 2024-25. The results are in. The Detroit Lions earning 46.3% of the vote, followed by the Miami Dolphins at 29.5%, San Francisco 49ers 18.7%, and the Buffalo Bills at 8.2%. First, let's start with your reaction to the results of this poll. Do you think our audience got it right or wrong? How you feel?
Well, I mean, look, they were the second team in the National Football League in touchdowns scored. But here's the little bit of an issue that I try to talk about in terms of their approach, right? So this is a team that only attempted two field goals over 50 yards all year, okay? And they were 1 for 2 in those field goals. They ranked 32nd in the National Football League, Stormy, in field goal attempts, okay? They had 40 attempts on fourth down. They just were 52% on that. And they ranked second in the National Football League, having 2.3 fourth downs per game. So they just dismissed 3 points at will. They don't care. And had they taken some of those points, they probably would have led the league in scoring. They didn't get to 500 points. So that's my biggest concern when it comes to them. Second concern for Detroit is, do they have enough team speed on defense, right? And so when you go through their questions and you look at them, and you see the fact that they only created 16 fumbles all season, which to me is always an indication of how much team speed you had. They've only recovered 7 of them. So they don't turn the ball over with their team speed on defense. They don't kick field goals, which propels you to scoring. Why did Dallas lead the league in scoring? Bland had 5 returns for touchdowns. So I think that's my only concern. But on the surface of just scoring touchdowns, Detroit's a solid play.
They finished fifth in the National Football League in scoring last year. You said it, the Dallas Cowboys were at the top of that list, followed by the Dolphins, 49ers, and Ravens. The Lions, plus 550, the second shortest shot on the odds board behind San Francisco to be the highest scoring unit in the NFL. Now that we have the results from our audience, I want to go through with you, Michael, your top 5 offenses who you think will be the highest scoring. And we'll start at 5 and go up to 1 from there. At number 5, you have the Green Bay Packers. And we were just talking in the last segment a lot about Jordan Love and his contract negotiations that are underway as he's holding in with training camp getting underway. So while he will be around the guys and in meetings, just not on the practice field or participating in any preseason games until he gets that deal done. But you have a little confidence in this Green Bay Packers team that they're going to be able to score.
Yeah, they're good. I mean, they're really good. Look, the thing about the Packers, too, that you have to remember, they're the 3rd best team in the National Football League in sack percentage allowed. I mean, he doesn't get sacked. Only Buffalo and Kansas City were better. I mean, this guy they can protect the passer. And the Packers last year were really good. They're 3rd best red zone team in football last year behind Dallas and Baltimore. They were 8th in touchdowns scored. The problem was their field goal kicker wasn't very good. They're 23rd in field goals. I think they could make up for that. Plus the fact if you're going to pay Jordan Love and make him the highest paid quarterback in the National Football League, you better be in the top 5 in scoring. They can score. There's really not a weak area of their team. Jacobs is a good back, assuming he can play at the 22 level. Their offensive line can pass protect. They're going to put Jordan Morgan, the kid from Arizona, at right guard. We'll see how that works out. But for the most part, this is a talented offensive team, and I think Hafley will turn the ball over defensively, which is something that they hadn't really done very well last year. They were 30th in forcing fumbles last year in the National Football League.
I think that's a really good point. If we expect Green Bay's defense to be better, Green Bay's offense is going to have the ball in their hands a lot more. At 4, you do have the Detroit Lions, and then at 3, the Philadelphia Eagles, whose offense obviously was outstanding 2 years ago, took a step back last year. You think they'll be back up high this season?
Well, I think with the addition of Barkley, he's a better back than Miles Sanders. The receivers are still good. The tight end's outstanding. I mean, the offensive line, I know they missed Jason Kelsey, but they're very good. I can't see any reason why they scored 204 points 2 years ago in the second quarter. And I know that Jalen Hurts didn't play well last year, but I do think they have an opportunity if they'll run the football. It's interesting. When you look at Justin Herbert's numbers, and I was working on this today, Stormy, his numbers from last year when he had Kellen Moore to 2 years ago with Joe Lombardi, no relation, he's now at Denver, they were much better with Lombardi's offense than they were with Moore. mean, last year, Justin Herbert averaged 17% of his throws were bad. When he was with Lombardi, they only 12%. So if they try to run the ball in Philly, I think they'll be successful and score points. But if they get into that full throw-it mode like Kellen Moore wants to do, it may not be the same team.
At number 2, you have the Miami Dolphins, and Mike McDaniel, Tua Tagovailoa have a great relationship. Tua, of course, trying to get a deal done as well here. A ton of speed on that offense, and it's not just Tyreek Hill, but you think about Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane. How good can this unit be potentially?
Well, they can, they're hard to play, and you got to be really fast on defense. And even if you're fast on defense, right, you got some problems covering them. I mean, they're really good. The ball comes out quick. Early in the season when they're fresh, I mean, look, they can beat up on some teams. Yeah, they put a 70 spot on the Denver Broncos yep. early in the season. You would think you put a 70 spot on somebody, you're going to lead the league in scoring, and yet they didn't, because the second half of the season is hard. I'm a little bit worried about them in the sense that they end the year in Cleveland, on the road in New York. Those 2 road games, that if they don't score over 20 points in those games, they won't lead the league in scoring.
10-1 their odds to be the highest scoring offense. So in terms of bang for your buck, not bad there. But okay, let's go to number 1, the big reveal. Who for you is potentially the top scoring offense in 2024 in the NFL?
I put the 49ers. I could care less about the IU conversation. To me, it's all just media talk. He either shows up or they'll play without him. I mean, they've got 3 more years on his contract. We had Bucky Brooks on yesterday, and Bucky was the same thing. It's like At some point, when will somebody realize that he has no leverage? Like, we're not the NBA. He's not James Harden. He's not going to demand a trade and get away with it. He's going to miss time. He's going to get fined. The 49ers are not going to let him sit in, I can tell you that. So either show up or don't show up and get fined and move on with life. They'll move on without him. But here's the key for me why the Niners could be better is Jake Moody, their kicker. He wasn't great towards the end of the year last year.
No, he was not.
I think if he gets through those hiccups and he becomes the kicker he was at Michigan, they could be, because Kyle's not going to chance it. Kyle's going to take the points. You know that.
Yep. No, I'm in agreement with you. And every time, honestly, as we got to the back end of the year, when a game was on the line or you needed those 3 points in a critical moment, I did not have the confidence that I needed. I told you how many weeks in a row I am moody about Moody. And I even remember in the NFC title game against Detroit, when he went, I was just, all right, it's going to be a miss. It's going to be a miss. And he ended up coming in the clutch in that game when they needed it to. My concern, Michael, and I'm curious if you agree, about the 49ers offense is the way they operate when trailing in games. And you think about that NFC title game, they ended an 0-for-30 streak, I want to say, when trailing by 7 or more points in the fourth quarter to come back and win that game. When they trail, Kyle Shanahan does not play as confident as we're accustomed to seeing early on in games.
No question. And why is that, Storm? That's a great question, but why is that? Because he's not built to play from behind. His offensive line, if they have to drop back pass all the time, it's not good enough. That he knows it. I know it. Everybody in the league knows it. This is a play-action pass team that has to run the football to be effective. That's going to be the key to them. They have to have that action in their game plan. If they don't, it won't work because they need it to be able to separate the defense, to help the offensive line, to help them get into their protection and do all those things. But once they get into a drop-back pass game, then all of a sudden it becomes really a problem. And I think ultimately that's what happens. So when they get behind, it's hard for them to throw it to catch up.
Yeah, they're not a team you want to live bet in the fourth quarter if they're down, that's for sure. High expectations, though, for the San Francisco 49ers team, who ultimately lost to the Chiefs in last year's Super Bowl. They're the second shortest shot to win it again, second only to that Chiefs team. Win total 11.5. They're the lone team in the NFL this year that is favored in each and every one of their games. As for the highest scoring offenses, they're the favorite there at 5-1, followed by the Lions at plus 550, Buffalo 9-1, Miami 10-1, and the Dallas Cowboys, who led the league in scoring last year, also 10-1 along with the Eagles.